This Alienware gaming PC is by far the most requested PC review on this channel since I started YouTube. We have done a lot of gaming PC reviews over the past few years, and you've made it clear that you're especially curious about Alienware. You guys viewed those videos the most by far. This one with the all-new 5090 GPU, the most powerful gaming graphics card in the world. And I know you're probably wondering if Alienware's latest upgrades genuinely justify that price tag. While they have certainly upped their game with this new release, they still have made a few head-scratching decisions. We're going to take you through our full experience with the 5090 and 5080 version of this PC to help you decide if it's right for you in this 100% honest review of the Alienware Area-51. I'm going to quickly take you through the unboxing and what's included, gaming and creator benchmarks, design and build quality, the internals, thermals, fan noise, overall ease of use, pricing breakdowns and comparing its price to performance ratios against the competition, and my overall top likes and dislikes. I also took this PC apart and did some major improvements to find out how upgradable it really is. If you decide against this PC after anything that I say in this video, just keep watching because I'm also going to be sharing with you some alternative PCs that I recommend for every budget. I'll include links down below for all the products that I mentioned, as well as tag directly on this video or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV. I guarantee that by the end of this video, you will know if this PC is right for you or not. But if you still have any questions after watching this entire video, just shoot me a comment, and if you're publicly subscribed, I guarantee a personal response. All right, now let's rewind back into the past real quick and check out what came in the box. Inside the large box, we've got another small box with a Wi-Fi antenna, the massive PSU cable that you need to power this thing, a very basic Dell mouse, pretty solid clicks overall, but the weight of it definitely feels cheap. And then also a basic Dell keyboard, an Alienware thank you card, support card, and last but not least, your Alienware fanboy stickers. So Alienware has always been known for their iconic designs, and I know there have been some complaints out there about this specific design being safer overall, but personally, I really like it. There's still enough Alienware-esque accents, and its pretty unique stadium ring light on the front still makes it stand out. I do like where they're going with adding barcodes to each section for help on maintenance or upgrades, but for me personally, I would have preferred a cleaner look with maybe just one barcode that then took you to a page where you can just click on the part you want to learn more about. At 80 liters, about 9 inches wide, 22.4 inches tall, 24 inches deep, and 76 pounds, this is one of the beefiest PCs that I've ever reviewed. Even though there are very secure handles in the back top and bottom front, I would definitely get the help of a friend to move this. To access the internals, you first need to remove this retainer screw back here, unlock it, and then press this little button on the side. As you can see, the fans in this thing are insanely large too. Two massive 180mm fans on the front, two 140s on the bottom, and then three more 120mm fans on the top. These top three fans behind this radiator are actually part of this PC's AIO liquid cooling system. And for those of you new to PC gaming, this is the most important part of keeping your CPU cool. This CPU cooling block right here uses a liquid to transfer the heat generated from the CPU up through these tubes into this 360mm radiator where the heat is then spread out. Most gaming PCs blow that heat immediately out the top. What Alienware chose to do this year is blow that hot air back into the case. Another strange choice, all the fans in this PC are intakes, no exhaust. The claim is that their tests showed better results not including exhaust fans and utilizing positive pressure to quickly force all the heat out the back vent. We'll show you how that actually affected thermals here in a sec. To the right of our CPU, they give you Kingston Fury Beast DDR5 RAM at 6400 megahertz. We've got two sticks of 32 gigabytes for a total of 64. It's not RGB, but this solid black look is miles ahead of that ugly green RAM in the R16 from last last year. And underneath the CPU, behind this large metal heatsink, is our SSD, which is the main drive that our operating system is installed on. This one is a pretty basic SK Hynix, just like the R16, and not surprisingly, when we tested it, we also got the exact same speeds as the one in the R16. This will still be plenty fast for quick load times when starting up a game. And then beneath that, the most important part of this gaming PC, Dell's version of the all-new 5090 GPU. It's quite a bit larger than their version of the 5080, but nowhere near as large as third-party 5080 and 5090s. I do like the design of that larger Gigabyte 5090 better, but quality-wise, I'd say they're about the same. That one just barely fit into this case next to that GPU support bracket, which unfortunately is actually pretty useless for any GPU that isn't Dell, because the holes for the bracket screws are not standard. There are a lot of pre-built gaming PCs with no GPU support bracket at all though, so it's not a huge deal, but it's something that I think can be improved for the Area-51 in the future. Then underneath the GPU, they give you 2 more PCIe slots for any expansion cards that you might want to add. Thankfully, both of these are actually accessible with the 5090 GPU installed. And then behind another longer metal heatsink, we've got 2 additional SSD slots for more high-speed storage. Then spinning around to the back, you release and remove the back panel the same way you did the front. By the way, probably the heaviest back panel that I've ever lifted off of a PC before. Don't test me on this, but this PC seems like it could probably handle a drop like a champ. Also, whoever's in charge of the cable management for this PC, I think deserves a raise. The cleanest that I've ever seen. All the cables are cut to custom perfect lengths and grouped together with no bunch ups anywhere. You get 2 additional bays for 2.5-inch SATA SSDs and 1 extra bay for a 3.5-inch mechanical hard drive at the bottom. Then in the bottom right, your Dell branded 1500 watt modular power supply. And then over here on the left, they give you this Alienware hub where you can connect up to 8 fans directly into the Alienware command center controls. We did run into a few interesting situations taking all these internals apart to put our own off-the-shelf parts in, so make sure you stick around for when we reveal what we found later in this video. For the ports on the top, we've got 2 USB-A's and 2 USB-C's with charging capabilities, a dedicated microphone and dedicated headphone jack, and on the back, 2 more USB-C's also with power delivery, but instead these are the new super fast Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 ports with speeds up to 40 gigabits per second. And using an adapter, you can also connect an external display with these. Then 2 more USB-C's and 6 more USB-A's, a 2.5G RJ45 Ethernet, optical or SPDIF port for high quality digital audio, then standard audio in and audio out ports. Then on the back of our GPU, 1 HDMI and 3 display ports. Then at the very bottom, 2 connectors for that Wi-Fi antenna, which is kind of odd because if you ever swap out your motherboard, you're basically going to have redundant, useless Wi-Fi connectors back here. So for the software, the main program that's included with Alienware PCs is the Alienware Command Center. In here is where you set your performance profiles, quiet for when your PC isn't really doing that much, balanced for more of a smart fan automatic function based on how much heat your PC is pushing, and performance for when you're really pushing it with high graphics settings or rendering. You can also customize your fan profiles and max them out if you want to, but that's honestly just going to create a lot more noise for not that much more of a benefit. Then in the Alien Effects tab, you can also customize all of your RGB zones within the computer and also view all of your accessories together. Really not a lot of animation options in here, and I couldn't actually get them to be in sync with each other, so I just turned them all off. If you're like me, then you'll probably just stick with this nice default blue or maybe Rainbow Wave if you like to party. Then in the BIOS, if you don't have Alienware Command Center as the main overclock control, you'll also get access to a few more overclocking settings, but other than that, you probably won't find much of the settings in here as interesting or as helpful as the BIOS and most other motherboards. Now, when it came to the fan noise, these were my results after testing each of the main fan profiles. In quiet mode, it was about 40.6 decibels. And then when moving up to performance mode, it only brought the fan noise up to about 42 decibels. This was one of the quietest computers that we've ever tested in both quiet and performance mode. It was supposed to be way quieter than the Alienware Aurora R16, but our test showed it to be about the same during gaming. Thankfully, we've come a long way since those abysmal Alienware Aurora R13 levels. Now moving on to the thermals of this PC. We did a thermal imaging time lapse from the moment the computer was turned on to when it was fully engaged in gaming, and you can see that similar to many of the other PCs that we've reviewed, we do get quite a bit of heat built up against the glass right next next to the GPU. Opening up the glass panel reveals in detail what's happening, as the side of the 5090 GPU does generate quite a bit of heat. So I got in closer during some stress testing on the GPU, and temperatures actually stayed within reason. Nowhere near that 150 degrees Celsius that a couple 5090 GPUs on Reddit had. Actually, none of the 5090 GPUs that I've reviewed so far have had any overheating issues. After all of my stress tests, I also looked at the GPU connectors for this Area-51, and I had no signs of melting either. The large majority of my thermal testing was spent in actual gameplay though. These were our CPU temperatures for several different games at 1080p. I was pretty impressed that they were able to keep temperatures this low while having all of their fans set to intakes. Then averaging all of these gaming temps and comparing them to current top tier pre-builts with similar specs, you can see that both versions of this PC that we tested had cooler CPUs than average. And then putting these numbers up next to many of the past pre-builts from last gen, you can really see how much of an improvement Alienware has made compared to its previous top tier R15 and R16 with i9s and 4090s. But then when moving up to our average 4K gaming temperature tests, I organized this chart by the GPU because high resolution gaming puts a lot more pressure on the GPU and less on the CPU. This is where things start to make a little bit more sense. Having the AIO liquid cooling system for the CPU take in cool fresh air from the top does help keep the CPU in check, but it looks like here at the expense of the GPU. That cool air from outside of the case gets heated up as it passes through the radiator and brings that hot air down towards the GPU. I honestly prefer that to be reversed because the CPU can actually handle hotter temperatures before thermal throttling, and most people who buy this PC will be using it for 4K. Despite this though, you can see that when we break it down and look at the average temps game by game for both the 5090 and 5080 versions of this PC, we still really aren't getting into thermal throttling territory, so I'm not too worried about that. But obviously, the cooler the GPU, the better. Putting these numbers up next to last gen, you can see that they're quite a bit cooler than the R15 was, but actually hotter than the R16. Both the 5080 and 5090 versions were some of the hottest 50 series GPUs that we've seen at 4K. Now for the performance and gaming benchmarks. And up next, the most important part of this review, the price to performance ratios. For Cinebench R23, which simulates its 3D rendering power, we got very satisfying scores for both the Area-51 versions that we tested. So if you are a creator looking for the best overall multi-core rendering power, I definitely recommend this 285K CPU and this PC for that. Another very helpful test for you 3D renderers is the V-Ray benchmark. And these were our CUDA, RTX, and overall V-Ray performance scores. These GPU scores are about where I'd expect them to be for both the 5080 and 5090 versions. The 5090 version about average, and the 5080 version just below average compared to other PCs with that same GPU. This score is significant if you work extensively with high polygon 3D modeling or need fast real-time viewport rendering and lighting. On the other hand, the overall V-Ray performance score is based on CPU rendering, and that indicates how well a PC can manage more advanced realistic rendering tasks that require much longer processing times. And this score again confirms how exceptionally well Intel's 285K CPU performs when it comes to multi-core rendering. Still just a hair behind the much more expensive Corsair Vengeance i300 though. Our Adobe Premiere Puget benchmark also proved both versions to be a great choice for editing as well, with the 5090 version right behind the i300. For 3D Mark, which is a great benchmark used to determine a computer's overall gameability, you can see here that the 5090 version of this PC performed about average compared to the other pre-builts with that GPU, and actually the best performer that we've seen for the 5080 version. But we all know the real excitement is in the actual gaming benchmarks. These were our average FPS results that we got for several games at their highest presets at 1080p. This is unfortunately lower than we'd hoped for, as you can see in this chart comparing other similar spec pre-builts, but stay with me because that's largely due to this CPU not being the best for gaming at lower resolutions. You can see that i8300 had similar results here with that same 285K CPU. Then putting these numbers up next to many of our past pre-built averages from previous gen, you can see where they stand overall. Underwhelming, yes, but at the same time, I think most people understand they're not spending this kind of money on a current gen pre-built to game at lower resolutions. Now, if you really want to, or you only have a 1080p monitor, then you're going to want something like those Corsair Vengeance PCs right there at the top with 9800X3D CPUs. Those perform insanely well at this resolution. Moving up to 1440p, the 5080 version was still lower overall and did not really make up for that 285K's lack of gaming performance. But the 5090 version moved up quite a bit. 4K gaming is where the magic happens. Because the 5090 is so incredibly powerful and takes over most of the workload at this resolution, the less than ideal 285K CPU really does not matter that much anymore. The gaming PCs PCs with 9800X 3D CPUs still performed better, but not by much. And this is a closer look at how both of these versions handle these games at this resolution on average, along with their 1% lows. Now, as far as factoring the price to performance of this PC, right now at the time of this recording, this PC is going to cost you $4450 for the 5080 version and $5,000 for the 5090 version. I went ahead and collected current prices for the most comparable gaming PCs so you don't have to, and you can see in this chart that the 5080 version is a bit overpriced, but that 5090 version is actually an incredible deal right now. It's almost the least expensive 5090 pre-built gaming PC that you can find. And moving into our price to performance charts, you can see that you don't really get the best value for your money with these PCs if you plan to game at 1080p and 1440p compared to the rest. But at 4K, the 5090 version of this Area-51 is one of the best bang for your buck top tier pre-builts that you can find right now. But the big question that everybody has with this new Alienware desktop though, how upgradable is it really? I had a lot of fun with this part, but it also cost me a lot of money. I completely decked out this PC with an AMD 9800X 3D CPU and compatible MSI Mag B650 Tomahawk motherboard to go with it, a Trix 360 panorama liquid cooler with a curved OLED display, Corsair Vengeance RGB DDR5 RAM, and a Corsair RM1200X shift power supply. I would have preferred to save some money and just keep that 1500 watt Dell power supply, but that is not possible with a third-party motherboard. In my opinion, that power supply is still considered proprietary, as no motherboards use these two separate ATX power connectors or this PSU data connector. Now, removing the Dell motherboard was just as simple as any other motherboard, but replacing the liquid cooler was a bit tricky with this one. Because the radiator bracket was so low in this PC, in order to get the RGB fans at the bottom as exhaust fans and not hidden at the top as intakes, I actually had to secure both the fans and the radiator through the bracket holes simultaneously with just the fan screws. One thing I think some people are just a little over dramatic about is their complaint about having to pay for a conversion kit to make everything possible with the new motherboard. Honestly, as a Dell member, with the amount of points you get with this PC after purchasing it, it's actually free with plenty of points left over. I was able to get all the RGB working properly and the top ports working with that kit, but only one of the top USB-C ports was able to connect to the new motherboard. ATX motherboards this size only have one USB-C header, so I actually bought this USB-C PCIe card that had one and connected the second one to that. After reinstalling the Alienware Command Center a couple times, I finally got the Alienware RGB working with it, but neither the fans nor the real-time stats were controllable with it. I usually use MSI Center or the BIOS though, and thankfully the fans were actually controllable there. And for the non-Alienware RGB, I was able to control that separately with an app called Signal RGB, and this allowed me to make all of my animations match the Alienware effects. While it's not ideal to need multiple apps to get everything to work, the end result looked absolutely incredible. This Trix Panorama 360 ARGB is definitely my favorite liquid cooler I've ever had by far. But yeah, $360 is not cheap. Although I've never heard of anything with an OLED display, especially a curved one, that was cheap. I made this Alienware CPU animation with a VideoHive logo template, and I'll include a free link down below for anyone else who wants it. Also, let me know in the comments if you want me to make a separate video showing you exactly how to do all of these upgrades step by step. So after rerunning all my benchmarks on 9 different games a few more times, you can see that the average FPS is significantly better with this new 9800X 3D at 1080p gaming, less of a difference at 1440p, and barely any better gaming at 4K. You're honestly kind of doing yourself a disservice if you're not gaming at 4K with this much power. And this third test below shows that using a Gigabyte 5090 in this PC performed just barely better than Dell's stock 5090. And this chart right here shows that we do in fact get better temps reversing the fans on the radiator and setting them as exhaust. These bottom 3 tests were all with the reversed AIO fans, and the best average temperatures that we got were when we also added a rear exhaust fan. Now, if you're understandably at an entirely different price point, these are my recommendations for every budget. I'll also include links down below for all the products that I mentioned, as well as tag directly on this video or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV. If your budget is under $4,000 and you also want the peace of mind of having double the warranty of most gaming PCs at 2 years and double the return period at 60 days, then a solid option would be this Corsair Vengeance A7500 with a 5080 GPU and 9800X 3D CPU. Unlike the Area-51 with a 5080 GPU, this Corsair Vengeance PC will also have high FPS at lower resolutions, but it literally literally went back up in price just today, so technically I would wait until it dropped a couple $100 first. And then make sure to use my code Justin50-S for an additional $50 off. If you don't need a 2-year warranty or extended return period, a better deal for your money would be the Skytech King 95 with the same specs as that Corsair Vengeance A7 500, but quite a bit less expensive. I loved that PC when I reviewed it last year, and this version is way faster than that one. If that one goes out of stock at that price, which I think it will very soon, then a less flashy gaming PC for about the same price would be the Skytech Chronos. This version of that PC is about 3 times faster than the one that I reviewed a while ago. If you need to be under $2,000, then your best bet would definitely be that AVG PC Whirlwind that I just recently reviewed with AMD's new 9070 XT GPU. This one had the absolute best price to performance ratio that we've ever seen at every resolution. It's not the fastest overall by any means, but considering that price, you get a lot of bang for your buck. That one has a really high demand right now and is actually back ordered until it looks like tomorrow as of this recording. So if it goes out of stock again, then I would get this Skytech also with AMD's new 9070 XT GPU, as well as a 7800X 3D CPU. This one is going to perform about the same as that AVG PC, it's just a little bit more expensive. And if that's still too much, then this Blaze Mini with a 4060 Ti is what I would get for around $1,100. If you absolutely have to be under $1,000, or you're just now getting into gaming PCs and you want your graphics to at least match that of a PS5 or Xbox Series X, then a decent option would be this ABS Cyclone Aqua for about $900. That's the bare minimum that I would recommend for semi-decent graphics settings though. Overall, I am a little disappointed that Dell chose to use an Intel 285K CPU in this PC when it's pretty common knowledge in the PC gaming community that AMD's 9800X 3D CPU is superior at gaming, especially at lower resolutions. And it doesn't look like they plan to include any AMD versions anytime soon, as my contact at Dell told me that there were several factors behind their decision to partner with Intel, and they're unable to provide any details about future plans. But if you game at 4K, because it's more about the GPU at that resolution, this PC's 4K gaming price to performance ratio makes it worth it. It still hasn't matched the easy upgradeability of most other gaming pre-builts, but this is the greatest change that Alienware has made in a long time in the right direction. Now, if you do decide to purchase this PC or any of the others that I mentioned, then please remember to use my affiliate links in the comments and description below, or tag directly on this video, or using a QR code if you're watching on a TV, as I get a small commission at no cost to you for every single purchase made. And it's actually a major factor in keeping this channel going and getting better and better for you. I'd also like to thank all of my members for their monthly support of this channel. Remember to check out this PC's raw benchmarks video with all of our actual gameplay and detailed live stats and exact graphic settings used. Also make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with notifications turned on to stay up to date with all of our latest tech and gaming PCs. PC gaming is awesome, but please do not let it consume your life. What helps me mentally is getting outside, staying active, eating healthy, and spending more time with my family. Also, studies have shown that reading the Bible at least 4 times a week has been shown to massively improve your mental health, and I can attest to that. And if you're a little skeptical about the Bible, then check out the book or documentary, The Case for Christ.